Good morning. My name is Brian Gladstein. I'm the Executive Director of Common Cause Illinois. We are a 43-year-old organization that works on democracy issues and justice issues throughout the country. Our campaign finance system is broken and does not serve the interests of the people. For example, over $7 billion was spent on the election, the last presidential election. $40 million was spent on the city election here in Chicago for the mayoral race alone. The result is that voices of the hardworking people of Chicagoans are drowned out and disenfranchised, and there's distrust of our government. We're here today to propose an ordinance to solve that problem, to create a small donor public financing system for the city of Chicago. I'm going to hand it over to Jan from the Reclaim campaign to talk. We have our co-sponsors, and then I'll talk about how the actual ordinance works.
Good morning. My name is Jan Rodolfo. That's Janrodolfo. One second. I'm a registered nurse, and I'm speaking loudly as a proud leader of both Reclaim Campaign and National Nurses United today. We created Reclaim Campaign for much the same reasons as we're supporting the Fair Elections Ordinance, because in Chicago, we had lost our belief in city government. We were and are a city that polls deeply progressive time and time again on social and economic questions, but we see no reflection of our hopes and aspirations in City Hall. We feel deeply cynical because every night on the news we hear about hotels being built while our schools are closing. We hear about mental health clinics closing while the mentally ill squat in the cold in the winter alongside beautiful skyscrapers in the Loop. We feel furious when we hear about the privatization of our parking meters, and we know when we hear red light camera ticketing in our neediest neighborhoods that translates into no money for rent, no car to get to your job, and ultimately kids going to bed hungry as a result. We knew that while corporate money dominated Chicago politics, it didn't have to be that way. We formed Reclaim Campaign, a vehicle to organize our neighborhoods and wards, take back our government from the corporations and the 1%, and to elect a city council and mayor that would put our communities first. We connected with progressive candidates that we could believe in, like John Arena. Where is John Arena? And most importantly, we knocked on doors and we made calls and we asked, what would you change in your neighborhood if you had control of City Hall, if you were setting the priorities? And we said, are you ready to join us and make that vision real? And you know what people said to us? That sounds great, but nobody cares what I think. And we said, that changes now. Join Reclaim Chicago, and now we bring that energy to the campaign for fair elections. And we organized in the previous election 9,000 volunteer hours talking to voters, and we were successful in getting many of our candidates elected. But we need to take it farther because our city is still dominated by corporate interests and the 1%. We don't have to look to Flint, Michigan and what happened with their water supply to see examples of what happens when corporate interests get put ahead of public health. We need to look no farther than the southeast side of Chicago and the pet coke piles that continue to poison our communities. Reclaim Campaign believes that the single barrier to the health of our communities and the health of our democracy is the domination of money of corporations of the 1% on our elections. The current system requires candidates to seek large donations for corporate interests that don't have the health of our communities in mind when they reach for their checkbooks. The current system is broken, and we believe that the Fair Campaign Ordinance would amplify the voices of candidates with new ideas to reflect the desires of our communities, amplify the importance of issues over corporate connections by requiring participation in debates, and amplify the impact of small donations from within the ward, bringing together fundraising with constituent outreach. We know that it works from other cities. We know that the city of Chicago people want this. That's why Reclaim Chicago is wholeheartedly committed to putting in the time and effort needed to make this ordinance a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Alderman Joe Moore, co-sponsor, can you say a few words?
Thank you. Alderman Joe Moore of the 49th Ward. Joining me here today are several of my colleagues in the City Council, co-sponsor of this very important ordinance, Michelle Harris, John Arena. Also joining us are Alderman Walter Burnett of the 27th Ward and Alderman Sadlowski Garza of the 10th Ward. I'm very proud to have these fighters for reform standing with me today. As was just mentioned, there's a lot of cynicism, much of it justified, that big moneyed interests, the special interests, have an undue influence on policy decisions made by those of us in elective office. Sometimes those accusations are true, sometimes they're exaggerated, but the fact is that impression is there, that sense is there on the part of the public. We need to make sure that the public understands that we are controlled not by the interests of the few, but by the interests of the many. And to do that, we need to get money, big money, out of politics. And the way to start it is right here in Chicago. We have a very, very groundbreaking ordinance that will do just that, that will have a situation where the influence of people with a lot of ability to give big campaign donations is minimized, and the influence of many constituents, many residents, is amplified. Because through this ordinance, rather than spending time on the phone raising money from folks who can afford to give $5,000, $2,500, $1,000 donations, we'll be going door to door in our neighborhoods, collecting $5, $10, $20 donations from our constituents and seeing that money matched so that we can fund our campaigns. Because the reality is, the reason we have to spend so much time raising money is it's expensive to run campaigns. This takes the influence from those who can afford to give us big campaign contributions and gives it to the working men and women of our city who can afford to support us at a $5, $10, or $20 range, and then gives us the ability to match those dollars so that we can fund our campaigns adequately and get our message out. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for being here, and I'd like to turn the podium over to Alderman Michelle Harris, who's joining us today to sponsor this very important ordinance. Michelle?
Good morning. Today, I support Reclaim Chicago as we stand here and we talk about how we empower our community to be part of the process. I think this ordinance allows us to make the everyday citizen a part of election cycles and to empower communities across the city and across the state to be involved in campaigns in a way that's affordable and takes big money out of it. So today, I support them today, and I'm here to say that we need to figure out how to empower communities to be stronger and to be better and to encourage them to be part of a process.
Thank you. I'm Alderman John Arena. I'm also co-sponsor with my colleagues. I'm proud to stand up here today with the support of Reclaim Chicago, with the leadership of Common Cause, to put together a very important ordinance that will help, as was said, raise up and amplify small donors' voices in the campaign structure. I think it's really important today to be talking about this in terms of city council reform and getting confidence of the average citizen back in the council's operations. In a few minutes, we're probably going to be, I'm hoping we're going to be voting on an ordinance for oversight by the IG's office. I think that, paired with an ordinance like this that helps level the playing field in terms of campaign finance money, go hand in hand to reestablishing a connection with our communities and trust. Thank you very much. I'm proud to be a sponsor of this ordinance.
Thank you, Alderman. So how will this work? Candidates will receive $6 for every $1 that they receive, up to $175. They have to agree to not receive a donation for over $500. There are no caps. Aldermen and the mayor and the treasurer and the city clerk can all raise as much as they want as long as it's coming from the people that are representing our communities and not from big money and big special interests trying to influence what happens in the hall over there on the second floor here on City Council. I want to open it up to questions. We're introducing the ordinance today, and we hope soon that the City Council will vote in favor and join New York City, Los Angeles, and other cities across the country to do what's right for voters across this city. Questions for anybody here?
Standing up here today backing this, this program would be essentially voluntary. We have to agree. So all of this today pledge that if this passes, that we'll take part of this program.
I pledge.
Yes. Yes, I will.
There's no caps.
No spending caps.
As much as you can raise, you get 6 times that much.
There's no cap on it. Right.
Right. So there is an amount that you can get, or then we would just be broke. So there is, for the city of Chicago mayor, for aldermen, for example, it's $150,000 is the cap of the amount of money that you can receive, but you can keep raising money from $500 and less and spend that amount as long as it's not over that $500 amount. The reason there is no spending caps is that we know, because of the Citizens United case, that all elected officials have to be able to compete with independent expenditures, super PACs, and PACs. And for the ability for them to compete is to not have those type of caps. What's more important is that small donations, $5, $15, $100, is what's going to provide a real democracy for the city.
You're talking about city funding matching at a time when we have these record tax increases and more on the way. Where's that money going to come from?
We've got a number of ideas that we're going to be flushing out, but keep in mind that this is money that's going to fund elections that will take out the influence of the special interests and restore confidence and trust. And that is a cost that is well worth whatever price we'll have to pay. So, it's a price worth paying at whatever cost. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll be available to answer questions, but we have another press conference coming up.